Hello, it's Kathleen with Treesisters and Creative Interviews. And today I have a very special guest, Ellen Davidson. Hi, Ellen.
Hi, Kathleen.
How are you?
I'm fine. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, I think, we've had our interview before and it was wonderful. And this is sort of the first time I've followed for a follow-up interview. And the reason that I was inspired to do that is because you came to a spot on your journey as an author, as a writer, as a naturalist, to realize that maybe there's something has been keeping you from actually putting your voice out into the world as much as you possibly could. And you said, no, I'm done with that. And I saw one of your posts in the creative journey that you joined with me for this summer. And I was right away like, that's so inspirational and so needed right now. The journey is called creating liberating our creative voice for Earth, and it spoke right to that. And I think that every one of us can feel that there's different parts of our voice that can just use that little extra nudge. So that's why I wanted to do this little interview with you. And so if you could, Ellen is an author, and you can look back at some of the other creative interviews to find a whole nice section all about Ellen and some other books that she's written, and more about her biography and all that. So this is a follow-up to that. And if you could just talk to us about what has that meant for you to have this book that you've kind of been sitting on a little bit, and what it was that inspired you to finally just say, okay, I'm not going to wait, and I'm not going to wait for the approval or whatever it is, and I'm just going to bring it out into the world. And I'm just going to let you talk and tell everybody.
Okay. One thing is I was in the field of the Course, liberating our creative voice for the earth. And I find these collective fields to be really potent. So it was working on me, even though most of the time I couldn't make the phone calls because I spent the summer living in my tent out of cell phone range, communing with the earth. But the story, I wrote a book 10 years ago, The Miracle Forest, telling the true story about Paolo Lugeri, the founder of a sustainable community in Colombia called Gaviotas. And they have miraculously managed to restore long extinct rainforests. And the story just really inspired me. I wrote it. At the time, I really couldn't travel because I was dealing with fibromyalgia, chronic fatigue, and chemically sensitive. And so my husband went down with my manuscript, which we translated into Spanish, and he went to Gaviotas, which is in the Llanos, the eastern part of Colombia. Paolo wanted to create a community in a difficult environment because he thought with the population of Earth being so huge, we would need to learn to live even in the less habitable parts of the planet. So my husband went down there with my manuscript, and Paolo read it, the translated version, and he gave me his blessing and all these pictures, photos to help an illustrator, and wrote me an endorsement, 1,000 things, and I was stoked. And I sent it to my editor. I'd had a few books published, and I was told that this would appeal to crunchy granola types. That was 10 years ago. And 10 years ago, climate change was still being debated, believe it or not. It's hard to believe, but yeah. So the importance of a restored forest wasn't understood by most people. And later I had some interest. It went to various editors. Lee and Lowe, editor, worked on it with me for a year and then vanished. And I have something like 70 versions of this story. But the first original was the one approved by Paolo. So anyway, I put the story in the file cabinet along with many other stories that I've written that didn't fly, and kind of just gave up. And then I came out, I did self-publish my book, Wild Path to the Sacred Heart, and it has a section that talks about Paolo Lighieri and his story and what that all meant in my life. And so I wanted to give some of the royalties to Paolo and his community, as I would have done with the Miracle Forest. So I translated a letter and found a Colombian friend of my husband's to get that to Paolo, and finally heard back from him. And he didn't want royalties from Wild Path to the Sacred Heart. What he wants me to do is use any royalties I have to come out with the Miracle Forest. Well, I was just shocked because my self-esteem as a writer is about maybe that big, you know. So the thought that somebody would want my work was like, you know, shocking. So
this is a very important, I just want to stop you there. This is a very important part of your story, you know, like where we've all been in that spot where we realize our self-esteem is here and our actual inspiration and capacity is here. And you know, you made the move from here to here, and I know we can all relate to that. So I just wanted to interject there for a moment.
Well, that's why this course, Liberating Our Creative Voice for the Earth, is so important, because women in particularly, we have a huge wound that's gone on for 2,000 years to our voices. You know, I mean, when I was growing up, all the magazines were telling women how to ask on a date. Ask him about football and listen to his stories about football. And we weren't even supposed to talk about ourselves. We were supposed to attract men by being interested in whatever they were interested in. And so, you know, that was then. But anyway, so he said that, and I was really surprised. I had thought Paolo was being so generous, allowing me to tell his amazing story. It had never occurred to me that he actually wanted the story out for children.
Mm-hmm.
And after that, I felt sort of honor bound, like I have to do something with this. I've been sitting on it for 10 years.
Yeah.
This luminary on our planet that has done this amazing thing shows us a way that we can do things like this, wants it out. So now I am determined, and I'm going to come out with a bilingual book, and I have 2 possible illustrators, and I'm waiting to see which one is the one. And I'm going to donate it to as many schools as I can, and make it available to inspire kids. And it's just fascinating to me how it all comes together, the timing, Kathleen's course being at the same time, and all of this working on me. Because 10 years ago, people told me, oh, just self-publish it. This story has to get out. You have to do this. This is a great story. And at that point, I couldn't even imagine doing that. It was so daunting. And then to thicken the plot a little bit, this time I think I'm looking into self-publishing this with Luminaire Press in Oregon. I did come out with Wild Path to the Sacred Heart through Amazon because it was free. And this is going to cost me thousands to do it the other way. But now since that point in time, you know, and with the big monopoly of Amazon, et cetera, I'm not going to do it that way on this one. And in fact, with Wild Path, I'm in the process of making an Audible, and I'm looking into seeing if I can sell it somewhere besides Amazon, and I might be able to. So
yes. Oh my gosh. Well, it's like a whole new part opened up for you, and I can feel it, you know, that you're investing in yourself now, so that that self esteem, I guess, you know. I also think it's sort of like a self-reliance and a gratitude for where you're at, knowing that you got the, you know, it came to you. It didn't come to somebody else. You know, this was meant for you. But yet you were like, oh, well, he's just probably being kind, or, you know, he's whatever things we tell ourselves, right, to keep us playing a little bit like smaller. And now you're like, yeah, I'm gonna, you know, I'm gonna put $1,000 into it. I'm like, you know, it's a completely reversal. So how does that feel like from the inside, like, you know, just for Ellen?
Well, I'm going to backtrack. I was reading, and I don't even remember what I was reading. I was reading an adult book, and it was talking about issues. It had one paragraph in it that mentioned this community as an example of something. And a voice boomed in my head, this is a children's book. And it was kind of like instructions for me to write it. You've got to write this. It's for, and that set me off on the journey. So the actual writing of it was 20 years ago, before I got to the point where it was being taken down to Palo and this and that. And how it feels is like being lined up and in service to my soul, my higher self, the part of me directly connected to the divine and to the earth. So it feels, there's a rightness. I feel lined up, like I'm going to do my part.
Mm-hmm.
And I think as each of us get lined up with whatever our part is, it could be breaking bread for your family. I don't know what anyone's part is, but there's an integrity to it that feels very protected, because I know when I'm in this field of contributing what I have to offer right now in our times,
Yeah.
it keeps my energy in a positive light. And I often feel blissful when I'm in that light.
Right.
It feels like medicine, both for me and everyone else. Because right now we're in such a pivotal time. We're either creating the more beautiful world our hearts know is possible, as Charles Eisenstein puts it, or we're in the collective energy that's speeding to our doom. There's no middle ground. We just can't sit back anymore. And yet we can't do everything. You know, I wanted to be like Claire, do what Claire's doing, and it's impossible for me. I cannot do that, but I can do this book.
But we all have something to do, and you know, it's about trusting ourselves to take that action, to take the next step towards what we know we're here to do. It's sort of like it's in our DNA, and we know we're you know, we can feel guided, like you said, you come into alignment, you know, sort of like a sacred geometry happens. I used to experience it like that, where when, you know, two things that I was working with, or two people that I, you know, knew, when we came together, I could almost see the spark. Like sometimes I think I even did, like when the two lines intersected, and there was like, you know, if you can picture like a big flower of life, and you know, so there's parts missing here and there, it's not like that beautiful one you're used to seeing. And that's kind of like what we're walking through, and you can sort of see it. But if you know, like, where you have to follow your inner knowing, your heart, and you know, your spirit, really, you know, like it's like, you know it, you feel it, and then you're like, okay, that is the direction, you know, Gaia, you know, whoever it is that is giving you those messages, whoever you want to believe, right? That whatever it feels to you. For a long time, for me, it was, when I was little, it was actually Mary, Mother Mary, and Jesus, and I really felt it. But then the people in the church diverted me from like the belief, the people, not the essence. But now it's Gaia for me, and there's a steadfastness about Gaia that cannot change, and you don't, you know, it's not something about religion anymore, but I feel it's like a creation energy, and when I follow the path, like, and don't stop and don't say, oh, hold back, can't do that right now, or that doesn't feel comfortable, or I'm probably not going to do that right, or whatever all these things are. We just say, I'm diving in. I trust my spirit, I trust Gaia, I trust, whatever the angels and protectors, like you say, are around us. And then you just go, oh, and then you could feel that, like that light, or that complete alignment with what you're doing. And I think that's, like how I can see it in others, because I felt it in you. Like it was like she just stepped into that piece of the flower of life for herself, and or the, just that it's like there's a science to it for sure, and it's about the energy aligning with the energy that's meant to be for our trajectory in our life. And you're a beautiful author. I mean, when you speak, you're sharing story. Like, that's what I have always felt talking to you. It is being in the story with you of life, the story of life, So I'm so excited. I'm so excited for this sustainable community in Colombia, and for the man who is doing the work and knew that story needed to go out, and knew that he stepped into that part of the magic, and he knew you were there. He's like, oh, you're right there. You're the one. It's such an amazing thing.
And what's really beautiful for all of us here is one thing that's giving me the confidence to do this myself and just come out with it is I have people to tell about it. I can tell my tree sisters, and that's huge, to be webbed in and have a worldwide network, especially for me, because I'm kind of an introvert, and I'm a friendly, talkative, chatterbox introvert. Those exist. So I'm kind of off in the woods, hanging out with the trees and
But
playing.
you can come together with us and be fully who you are with us in these moments. So, and the community. I mean, I think, in general, like Tree Sisters, that community is so powerful because we're together, just like you say, because we've linked arms and hearts, and we're sistering each other. We're looking for the highest good and the brilliance and magnificence, and calling that forward in each other, which is a completely different paradigm than we, like you were saying earlier, how we try to get a man, or the ways where, like, you have to be better than the other women to catch the man, right? And that was just such a, not that the men aren't worth anything or worth that, but it was such a demising thing for our soul as a feminine, and the same for Earth. It's like, okay, if we can just elevate ourselves to like how you have, and just take our self-esteem and the reverence for ourselves, as well as the reverence for Earth, just up into this place where it really belongs to be, and then trust it, realize that we're here, we're protected, we're grateful. I still believe, and I do feel the grief of these days, and I know we had an earlier conversation, that I do still feel very hopeful, and it's because of women like you and men who are listening and following their truth and following their voice, and creating this web, this scientific, sacred geometry of life that we're really a part of with Earth. I appreciate you so much, and I know it's going to take you like a year to do. It's not like something you're just going to snap your fingers and it's done, right? It's going to take you a while to do this, and what we'll definitely be there supporting you, and I hope everybody who watches this will just be watching the journey and being inspired by your journey.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, I don't know if I said this before, and I'm really excited since we already had the book translated to share with Paolo. I'm going to come out with a bilingual English and Spanish book. And that part, for some reason, I'm thrilled about that.
Oh, it's a really good thing to be thrilled about. I mean, that's what connects our world even more. You know, lets the language barriers go down, you know, to nothing. You know, as long
Yeah.
as Spanish is going to reach like more than half the world, right? I mean, I don't know the exact percentage of language spoken, but I know that it's really, really high. And it's a challenge, but and it's also honoring the area in Colombia. So you know, it kind of goes along with that too, right? You're you know, you're respecting the language spoken in the place of the story.
Well, thank you, Kathleen. Feels very supportive. I feel held.
Mm,
You know,
thank you.
because yeah, keeping confidence up is with creative work is can be challenging at times.
Yeah,
That's for sure.
yeah.
You know.
Well, you're bringing something new. You know, you're
Mhm.
not following anybody, and like, you know, being like we talked about earlier too, like being oh, this is the way you go to get good grades, like when we're in school, and this is the way you do to get the pat on the head. This is how you behave, blah blah blah. Like you're actually doing something that nobody's done before, and so
Well, well,
well,
not with this story, but you know, I mean, there it's true in my contorting myself at the beginning of wanting to be a writer. I remember I was trying to write what editors wanted,
yeah,
you know, trying to fit myself. It didn't work out very well with me because I don't know, there's too much spontaneous upwelling to stick with that. But
yeah,
I did try and contort myself quite a bit for a while there. And
oh,
oh, they want this, they want books on that, you know?
right,
And that's how we get all those knockoffs. Will go in trends. In
mm-hmm,
fact, in the editorial world right now, more and more they become conglomerates, just like the small family farms taking over.
yeah,
And then they have committees, not editors, deciding what they want. And a lot of those are marketing people and accountants, and they
mm-hmm.
do it by precedent. And that's why we're getting so many knockoffs and so many stories that feel like the same old story you've already read.
Exactly, exactly. That's such a good point and good information for everyone, you know, to hear. And you have a lot of that information to share. You've been an author for so many years, right? How many years have you been
An
writing?
unsuccessful, well, a very smallly successful author. An incorrigible won't quit.
Incorrigible. I love that more.
Yeah, you know. Mm. And
Keep going,
well,
sweetie.
I wanted to, if you don't mind, Kathleen, I'd like to share. I did share in the nest something else. Another project I'm doing. It's free, and it's on my website. It's The Day the Lion Came to Call. I'm inviting art and visions about the world we want to see for kids and adults. Eventually, it's going to be a YouTube video, and I'll read the story. It was inspired by the pandemic, all the wild animals that came to visit
Yeah,
cities
the
and
mountains.
towns.
Yeah.
And it's in the spirit of, you know, while we're going through all this trauma, I really wanted to encourage children especially, but all of us, to keep thinking of the world we want, not get so sucked into the horror that we don't remember what we want.
So important, especially for our children. I don't know how how they're surviving right now with, you know, all the what the world looks like through their eyes right now. I can't even imagine, you know. So thank you for that. That's I'm thinking I want to, you know, I've been having it on my notes, like send her like some type of illustration. And, but you know, I'm so excited that you're going to be bringing a lot of art into it and a variety from different artists. And I hope that a lot of people watch this will say, hey, I want to, you know, I want to create
Yeah,
something.
yeah.
Yeah, it's beautiful. And I'm glad can you say your website again so that they can go
Oh,
on there?
yeah. It's www. my name, Ellen, Ellen, Dee, Davidson, Davidson.com. And then you can go to the page, The Day the Lion Came to Call.
Yeah.
And it's just a short little picture book story.
Yeah, no, it's really beautiful. I love it. I love it. I love it so much. And like all your work, you know. And so I thank you. And you know, you've been a water carrier and contributing to the trees for so long. Now we're going to be kind of morphing, changing a little bit from water carriers into soul trees. And but that's coming, the explanation on that. But I think the soul tree really, really feels really good when, especially when I'm talking to you. You're so connected to every day going out to your forest and your trees. So I hope that's possible again soon. I know it's tricky now in California with all the smoke and everything. So just sending blessings to you for that. And thank you so much for being with me today and for sharing with everybody.
Yeah, lovely to talk with you, Kathleen, as always. So thank you. Thank you for having
See you later.
me.